And in essence, the reason why the elves want to forge these rings is they want to prolong their waning, as it's called, because despite the fact they're immortal, they're losing power in Middle-earth because they need to leave Middle-earth and come to the Undying Lands. And to delay that process, they basically forged the 3 elven rings of power. And these basically cause everything around them to just offset time, is the best way to call it.
Yeah, this is, I think, the 3 rings of the elves. And Sauron was, as we said, right? He wanted order, but had a strategic mind. And that's why when he puts on the friendly avatar, goes and socializes with the elves, he's pretty charming and effective at it. And that's how he does get into the tutelage of Celebrimbor. Now, I know we were joking about him when we were discussing a bit about Shadow of Mordor and all, but Celebrimbor at this time is considered a master smith.
Yes.
I think
one of the greatest
I,
amongst the Noldor.
I think you would just say that in terms of like ability, you would put him just behind Feanor. Yeah, right? Feanor was the greatest at everything.
Yeah, Feanor was the greatest, yeah.
So Celebrimbor is there, and Sauron does actually help him in the crafting of the rings that were not the One Ring. Right.
Yeah. Although Sauron has nothing to play with. The 3 elven rings are made independently of the rest, but they still do abide by the One Ring. If the One Ring is destroyed, they will lose power as well.
True, but it feels like he just somehow was able to imprint some of that personality of control within it, so that they obey the One Ring. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yes.
Because see, Sauron's objectives when he created the rings was he's gonna proxy rule the world first, corrupt the leaders, because these rings are gonna be given to the greatest of each race.
Yeah, but Sauron legitimately believed he could get the elves to join his cause. That's something that people might be surprised to hear. He didn't think that he had to completely destroy them at the beginning. He eventually comes to that conclusion when they don't abide by him. But in the meantime, what they're working on is the Rings of Power. So, there's 19 rings, and you've all heard the the intro to the movies, the 9 rings to men, and the rings to the dwarves and such. And these are given as these gifts, and unbeknownst to everyone, Sauron has corrupted these rings because he is secretly working on the One Ring, which is going to dominate them all, and everybody who is given these rings. I'm just going to bring back my map.
I've just shown the famous One Ring.
Yeah, go for it.
But I think his idea was right. Like, as I was saying, it's a proxy rule. He is going to control and dominate the minds of the leaders who are going to be wearing these rings. And through them, he's going to manipulate the entire continent that is not under his direct control. Mordor, East, and South are completely under him.
Yeah.
It is just the West and the Elven lands that he does not have any direct control, and it would be pretty difficult for him to get that.
Yeah. So he goes actually back to Mordor, to Mount Doom, where he forges the One Ring. And when he puts on the One Ring, it immediately sends a message to the 3 elven rings that basically it just displays his trickery and what he has done. So all 3 of the ring bearers become aware of what Sauron has done, and they know that he's an enemy. Much to their, not surprised, because Galadriel and everyone but Celebrimbor seems to not like Anatar, and they kind of were suspicious of him. But Celebrimbor fell for it, and he feels probably ashamed. But Sauron has now openly declared himself. He's at Mordor, and he's going to wage a war against the elves. And actually, I got some artwork of this. So he invades Eregion. And it's not just the elves. He also goes after the Northmen. So he's sending, waves upon waves of northern orcs, mostly, because I don't know if I mentioned this. He is trying to cultivate these orcs that Morgoth had corrupted. And there's actually different groups of orcs. The northern orcs, or the orcs of the Misty Mountains and such, they're tribal. Ever since the War of Wrath, they kind of like formed their own little leaders, and they're not unified. But they see Sauron, and he's in his fair form, and they decide that he's a leader worthwhile, and they do join him. The Eastern orcs are a completely different group. When they see Sauron in his fair form, they mock him and they don't follow him. They actually think he's a bitch, which is kind of funny. So they don't
But
respect him.
I mean, orcs, they just really respect strength.
Yeah. So
It's
they
kind of
actually
like
tell him
if you
that
go
off.
back
Yeah.
to Fingolfin's duel with Morgoth, the fact that the orcs are never sang about their leader's victory. In a way, it's really the honor to Fingolfin that Morgoth is so embarrassed by it.
So basically, mostly using these northern orcs and some of his easterlings, he comes out of the Black Gates. I mean, he has trolls as well, of course. I don't know how many, and he invades Eriador, and they are not prepared for this. Even though Celebrimbor and the others have tried to, put up defenses, it's not going to go good. And this is in late 1600s. He kind of just swarms everywhere. He is met by a vanguard army that's led by Celeborn and such, and they're just pushed aside. Perhaps I should bring back my map. I don't know. This isn't that detailed as far as a map is concerned.
You'll have to scroll up to the north of the map.
Yeah. So they're getting the elves are just getting absolutely wrecked. In the meantime, they send word to Númenor seeking aid from the Númenorians to help them fend off this, but in the meantime, they're on their own. Most of Eregion is completely just overrun, and from Linden, Elrond is kind of sent by Gil-galad to just rally as many men as he can to try and fight these orcs, but they're losing all their battles.
It's what Elrond is just sent to do is a delaying action more than anything.
Yeah. I do have...
I don't think this particular war involved the men. It was pretty much...
The northern men formed an alliance with the dwarves, and they're just collateral damage. So in the area of the Misty Mountains and such, they were just there to fend off, the occasional raids from orcs and such. Now with this concerted attack, they kind of are being harassed and they're being thrown up the mountains, and the men can't really do anything when the dwarves close their doors. The men are screwed, so they just flee, they just migrate. But I'll talk about them a little bit later. But during all of this, Sauron didn't actually account for the dwarves. He never thought about them in the first place. He doesn't consider them in his military strategy, and it was actually an error, because when he's overrunning Eregion, a lot of the elves they flee near a place called Khazad-dûm. And this is where Durin's folk is. Durin the Third is reigning.
The Bridge of Khazad-dûm folks in the movie.
Yeah. So Durin the Third, he actually sorties because he is friends with Celebrimbor and the elves. They have been working together, and he attacks the forces of Sauron, and he allows a lot of the elves to go through, and then he closes his gates, and they can't break them. So Sauron is actually he'll never forget this. He's very pissed by what the dwarves did. And even the Galadrim, so the elves that are all the way, in Mirkwood, we would call it, in Lothlorien, even some of those elves kind of helped out as well. In the meantime, Elrond, he flees north to form what is called Rivendell. Its actual name is Imeldris, and he basically gets besieged. Him and a shit ton of refugees are just stuck there, and they're in a siege for a very long time.
And it's also Linden that's besieged simultaneously by Sauron's forces.
Yeah. But in the meantime, Sauron is now really pissed because the dwarves became involved. So he does tell his northern orcs to just attack everywhere in the Misty Mountains. And he scatters what is the Northmen. The Easternlings come in, and places like Gundabad are captured, which is very important to the dwarves.